So one of the main meta looks on offense this year, pretty similar to every year, is this gun tight, either gun tight offset or just gun tight as it is, or really just compression in general. Bunch is good as always, but this kind of 2x2 compressed bunch seems to be a little bit more popular than ever before. And despite some pretty significant work that was done in deep zones for cover 3 and cover 2 this year, which do help a lot on corner routes from compression, it's not perfect by any means, particularly when you have a streak to clear out some of the deep zones and then have a corner route running above the flat zones and below those cleared out deep zones. And particularly when they're running that to kind of the short side of the field. Okay, so we're going to go over in this video just really briefly at the beginning why this is difficult to cover. And then, towards the end, although this is a shorter video, we're going to introduce how to run a matching cover 2 to consistently cover these pesky route distributions, particularly to the near side or to the boundary of these compressed formations. So let's right away, let's just come out in cover 3 here. So this is cover 3 against bench. So the devs actually did a really good job of fixing those deep zones, those deep outside thirds and those deep halves and those deep zoned off quarters to defend route combinations like this, right? Where you have something to the flat and then you have the corner route and then you have nothing pushing deep. So if there's nothing pushing deep, those zones do a much better job of getting in position to play that. Of course, there's always the issues of aggressive catches and so on, but regardless of that, you do have good coverage. The issue though comes with, and particularly to the boundary, is when the outside guy isn't running a simple flat route or a simple drag route or something like that, where he's actually running a clear out route. So there, the outside third is going to get cleared out and the underneath zones don't match, right? So there's no matching in compression, particularly for cover 3 and stock cover 2. So they're just kind of doing nothing underneath, right? So the corner is going to get pushed and then you have all this space down the sideline for this easy throw. To the field though, it's different, right? So if they run the streak from this guy right here, he's not pushing the outside third, right? He's pushing actually the middle third in this situation. Okay, so if they do the exact same thing in this situation, the corner is going to be there to make a play on this ball again, as usual. Okay, so the problem isn't really towards the field. The problem is covering the short side or towards the boundary. Or it can be a problem to the field as well if they motion this guy out. Okay, so now if they motion this guy out, that outside third is going to be cleared now, and the underneath zones don't really do much. And now again, you have your big easy completion. Okay, what about cover 2? Okay, so cover 2, like I mentioned, the deep outside halves did receive some significant and actually good work in terms of covering these corner routes and crossing routes and things like that if there's nothing pushing their zone. So again, bench, is going to be covered by the cloud flat, and then you see the outside half actually makes an impact on that ball. And even if he's kind of like this, he's not really matching, he's kind of pattern reading, pattern matching type of thing. Okay, so he's not in man coverage on that corner route. So he's not, as quick to react on that. So as you saw there, he was a little bit behind, but he is still in good position. And if you equip a deep out zone KO on him, even if the receiver is able to get his hands on the ball, you're able to kind of knock that out pretty consistently. Now, again, so let's go back to Tampa 2. Same thing. So let's clear out that safety now. And if we have a little bit of time in the pocket, we can throw above the corner's head. And again, we're back to square one. And the same problem with cover 3, if they're running this to the field with the outside receiver motioned out, again, there's not going to be anybody to account for that. So I'm not going to show that, but and actually bench to the field against Tampa 2. Yeah, so yeah, it's the issue with the clear out. So if he motions out and clear out, neither cover 3 nor cover 2 will deal with it because they're not man matching coverages, right? So you only have one deep zone. If you have 2 routes pushing that deep zone, there's just no way that you can account for those, okay? Unless you bring that sort of man match or if you play man coverage. So I had a video about cover 1 before, and I showed how cover 1 was really good actually this year against corner routes. particularly with the outside shade. Okay, and usually by default, like for these compressed sets, you do have kind of an outside shade. You have an outside alignment and an outside technique for these inside guys. And it does, you know, I would say a good job. But the problem is if you don't have the guys to match up, right? So if your opponent has really good receivers with really good abilities and you don't really have those, then you're just going to get fried. And even if you have good corners, so here I have, I think, JC Jackson, even if you do have that, if the receiver has abilities, it's not kind of a guarantee that you're going to be able to cover that, okay? Because usually with pass leads, they can still kind of fit it in there. And then on top of that, if you're playing cover one against tight and against compression, you are good. Like there, that was pretty good. And if you had a knockout on that guy, it probably would have been fine on defense. But then it's hard to play outside shade on everybody. And then if they're running mesh routes and crossers inside and things like that, it's difficult to pick all those off with just these two interior zones. So, I mean, cover one's not a bad option, but I think it's not maybe the best option either. The other thing is quarters. So quarters is really, really cool because you have, on the strong side, they play box, okay? And unfortunately, like the way that EA defines strong and weak is based off of depth chart, essentially. Where is the third receiver rather than where are the most receivers? So ideally, I would say the right is the strong side because you have the back and two receivers. But in this case, they pick the left to be the strong side. So unfortunately, if you're playing a nickel set, your flat defender tends to get out leveraged, but that's kind of neither here nor there. And they play box over the strong side. And what that means is if you get these kind of meta flooding combinations, everybody gets accounted for. Even this, I didn't get the throw off, but that corner route was really well guarded. However, on the weak side is a different story, and I wish they would just apply, even though it's maybe not super sound, I wish they would apply the same rules to the weak side as they do the strong side. Okay, where this guy would be first to flat, this guy would be second out, and this guy would be second in. You wouldn't have a first in, but maybe you could kind of work with the 3-rec, kind of working both sides. But since they don't do that, you're playing essentially regular quarters rules. And what that means, let's not even look at the corner route. Let's just put them on a streak right now. What that means is that you have two guys, because the corner is essentially man on number one, unless he goes under, like under inside. So anything like this, even just a flat route will trigger him. Plus you have the flat route still. So you get a double coverage essentially on this flat route, which, you know, is fine for that, but we don't really want that. The reason why we don't want that is now you're going to have one-on-one with the safety, and he tends to get absolutely fried. You see, in this case, he gets totally cooked, and, you know, worst case, he just goes in for an easy touchdown. Okay, so all that chatting about different coverages, only to now finally get to the main tip here. And the tip is to run a like a zone match cover two to the two receiver side. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll call cover 4 quarters, and we'll turn it into cover 9 by hot routing the weak side, or depends on what you want to consider it, to cover 2 essentially. Okay, so you put the nickel on a vertical hook, you put the safety on a deep half, and then you put the corner on, really for compression, whatever you want. I would do soft squat for like a 2x2 spread type of thing. But here in this case for demonstration doesn't really matter. What we're looking at is the vertical hook. So this vertical hook, when he doesn't have a mid read next to him like he does in stock cover 2, if he has anything else next to him, he will match that corner route, okay? Now it's a weird kind of legacy matching, so it's not super responsive, but he does match that corner route and he makes for a difficult throw. Okay, so now if we have this route combination where we're pushing that deep half, now we have one of those underneath defenders adding into the mix, and he gets burnt a little bit, but what's important is he catches up, and he catches up in a way that he usually just cuts that guy right off, right underneath. Okay, so even if you have a receiver with good abilities, those route running abilities, you see he just sticks to him like glue. Really cool, right? The only problem really is that because this is just a weird route combination, and this year, you know, picks happen all over the field. you do have the possibility of that vert hook getting kind of mixed up in the jumble and losing his position on the corner route. But if you do something like base a line or just move that guy out, it's a little bit clearer. So again, you're just hot routing that into a cover 2 look. And again, we're clearing out that deep safety, and you see how good of a job that vert hook does, and almost always it's going to be a pick for you. So if you want to know why this happens, you can definitely check out the members only video that I published in the YouTube membership at the exact same time as this, where we go a lot deeper into the weeds of zone matching cover 2. Okay, so why that vert hook matches sometimes and why he matches other times and so on, how this applies to different formations, where you can use this against trips and twins and doubles and bunch and so on. I think it's really, really powerful, particularly I think the most powerful against this gun tight right here. So the most important thing is, you can run this out of anything. You need the match adjustment on. Okay, you can't just run this out of default. The match adjustment needs to be on, and you can't have a mid read on the field. Okay, so what I prefer, again, just cover 4 quarters because it plays box well to the strong side, and then we have the cover 2 to the weak side right here, where this vertical hook is able to help out on that corner route. Now, if number 1 doesn't go vertical, if somebody runs underneath that vertical hook, so if he's on an under route or if he's on a flat route, or just doing this regular bench look right here, then the vertical hook actually won't match. Okay, but because that vertical hook isn't matching, because that streak, that number 1, that outside receiver isn't pushing that deep half away, it doesn't matter that the vertical hook won't match here, because that safety will squeeze that corner out. And if you have the deep out KO abilities, you're in a pretty good position. And likewise, if they run this to the field, actually when they run this to the field, you could just go into something like cover 3, right? Because we know that it covers this well against when it's run to the field. But either way, this guy's going to trail underneath. And he's going to make a play on that ball. Again, if they're not clearing out that safety, that vertical hook won't match. So you're one-on-one with the safety, but because you have that deep zone KO, it's just a really hard catch to make. Lastly, let's briefly talk about why I like a soft squat here. So why I like a soft squat is because if they now motion this guy out, remember, if they're running this against cover 3, this is a cover 3 beater. And if they're running this against a regular Tampa 2, this is a Tampa 2 beater. But now, because we're playing this matching Tampa 2 on that side, you see we get extra help. We get essentially 3 deep defenders against 2 deep routes. Best of all worlds. So really cool, right? So when they need it, right? So when you're pushing 2 verticals, then one of your underneath guys will go help on that to cover 2 receivers for 2 guys. Or if it's split out and it's a twins look, then you actually have 3 guys for 2 receivers. But if it's not, if they're running bench or even if they're bringing number 1 underneath, like something like this, you don't need all those guys up there. The safety can handle that corner route on his own, particularly if he has that deep zone KO. And then these guys can sit underneath because they don't need to go up there, right? So that's the beauty of match coverage, right? It's not man coverage where you're following guys anywhere they go. It's not zone where you're covering grass rather than the actual receivers. You are putting your defenders in the best possible position. If they need to go and cover the verticals, they'll go. If they don't, they can leave the guys one-on-one on the top there. They can help out underneath. Okay, so yeah, so that's that. The members only video, definitely check that out because we'll be talking about how this applies to different looks. I gave you a little glimpse there how this looks versus twins, but there's all sorts of different things in terms of bunches and trips and so on, and the different considerations that you have to make if you're starting to mix in these pattern matching cover 2s into your looks. Okay, so that's it for this one, guys. I'll be doing a lot more videos coming out soon in terms of coverages. I think there's a lot of fun ways and fun, interesting and hidden ways that you can play these meta route distributions, and we'll get into that shortly. See you guys then.